G'day. Today I'm working on one of those projects which should have been done a long time ago, but I've finally gotten around to it and making headway. I'm not going to show you all of it because there's some pretty straightforward stuff in there which probably won't interest too many people, but I will show you some of the less ordinary things, shall we say, that I'm doing. This is the basis for the device here. I've got a shaft which I need to thin down, but it'll have a pulley on it to drive it. And then bolted to that I've got a 10mm thick aluminium disc, and it's got a groove in it. And the way this thing works is that an O-ring sits in that groove, and then another plate will sit on top like that and held down with a nut, and that'll secure it all. Now on top of this is going to go some abrasive material. That's not my problem. But it's quite an interesting little device, and in fact to try up these discs, as you'll see later on, I used this same thing on the lathe and was able to take quite a reasonable depth of cut without it slipping or anything like that. Right now I've got to cut 4 discs out of a bit of sheet. Now the discs are 6 inches diameter, and the sheet I have is not a nice multiple of that. So if you can imagine, there's my sheet there. I want to do this basically. Now that could involve a bit of trial and error, but there is a way to set that out geometrically, and I'll show you that. Basically what you're doing, these 4 discs are all meant to be the same size, but what you're doing is you're concentrating on the centers. Okay, so that center is going to be a radius up from or out from the edge, and that center is going to be a radius out from the edge. And so what you've got here is a spacing of 3 in this case, so four circles, spacing of 3. So the distance between here and here, if I take distance, that's better. I should then have lines here to show me where those should be. But that also means that this circle here is, in this case, 2/3 of that distance. So I can put that circle on there, I can put that circle on there. Then because I know the diameter of that, I can swing an arc there, and that'll locate that circle. Similarly, I can swing an arc here, and because I know what that distance there is, I can locate the center of that. And there's my layout pattern. I've gone around with texture just so you can see a little bit better on the camera there, because the scribe lines may not have been showing up all that well. I did make these a little bit bigger. They're meant to be a 6-inch diameter hole, which is 6-inch diameter disc, which is 152 something or other, and I've added a 5mm there for cut. So I've got enough there that I can run through there with a bandsaw or something like that, and then clean those up, and I should get a 6-inch diameter disc out of it. But that's basically how you lay these things out. Now, in terms of the efficiency of cutting, I can put a line down there, and I've still got this large piece of plate. I could have also laid these out this way, and I actually did that on the CAD system and worked out that this was actually a better usage of material, and I'd also cut these pieces here out and put those in my scrap pile so that I've got a few things to use for odds and sods there. These bits here, unfortunately, probably not worth saving. I might be able to get something out of it, but we'll see how all that goes. just thought I'd show you this. That's my shaft which you saw me machine just a moment ago, and I want to secure this 10mm plate to it with 4 screws. So I've drilled that out to the size of that pin, and as you can see it's quite a nice fit. I now need to put the holes in. Now, 2 ways I could do that. I could set that up on a dividing head, 3 ways really, or use the PCD function on the mill. But what I'm going to do is just basically spot through. So these holes are drilled not to the final size of the screw that's going through, but to the tapping drill size. I'll drill through, and then I've got 2 options. I can either tap that thread, drill that out, and secure that with a screw, or I can use the shank of another drill of the right size just to hold that in position, and then drill the other 3 holes. But that's one way of getting a hole pattern out. Once you've done that, you're going to have to mark, and usually people use a center punch, maybe a dot there and a dot at the adjacent hole, just so that when you put this thing together, in case there is any angular misalignment, you've got the holes that will line up, so you can look underneath, see the dot, put it on there, and you've got a hope of getting it all put together. There's my disc mounted onto the shaft. This diameter is 19, or just a smidge under 19 at the moment, and I'm going to be taking that down, so I'm not so concerned about the little bit of a blemish there where the tap has sort of just kissed the shaft. Up the top here, I did think I had some countersunk screws, but I don't, so I've used button heads and I've had to counterbore that. I did break through in there and there, but I couldn't really go much further that way, because if I did, I'd run out of material here to hold the thread. So it'll be fine. No problems there. But that's already, now I can mount that up in the lathe, and I can now use this to trim this to round, which is the whole idea of doing the shaft and the bolts first. One of the things that I need to do is put a groove in this plate, and an O-ring is going to sit in there as a sort of a friction drive thing. Now, for those of you who haven't done this sort of thing before, what you need to do is be careful about your tool. If you can see the front of this tool, it's cut away that way, and that's because as you plunge in there, if you don't have that relief there, that's going to rub and do all sorts of horrible things for you. So just as a something to watch for, if you're ever in the situation where you need to put a circular groove into a face like this, remember to give yourself relief on the outside. The inside doesn't matter too much because the material is going to go away from it, but on the outside it needs to have that relief so that it can get past this. And of course, the closer you are to the center, the more relief you're going to have. This is the final operation here for these discs. These are some 6mm thick discs, and they're going to have some abrasive attached to them. But in use, this is going to go on to the spindle like that, and then with a nut, just tighten that up, and that's enough with the O-ring to give that a friction drive. And I'm also using that to take these discs to size, so it works, reasonably well. So that's that's really about it. So thanks for watching, and see you for the next one.